There's one thing that Joe Hockey and I agree on. Budgets are about more than numbers. They're about values. Australians have seen this government's values on display for the last week, and the verdict is clear. They don't like them. From constituents in the street, to chief executive in airport lounges, to small business people, to university professors, the feedback to me this week has been consistent. This government's values are not the nation's values. There's much to object to in this budget, and for those who ask, how could we oppose some of these measures, I say to you, how could we not? I ask you whether the nation can afford not to block some of these cuts. Can we afford not to oppose them? If the government succeeds in introducing its $7 charge to see a doctor, the fundamental principle of universal health care would have been undermined and Medicare trashed. If they succeed in changing the formula for indexing the age pension, we as a nation will be telling generations of people who worked hard and faithfully paid their taxes for years that we can't afford to keep their income rising in accord with a fair formula. If they succeed in freezing the benefits of people under the age of 30, enough so that if they experience unemployment, they will not have access to Newstart, they will have purposely created an underclass, forcing people into the arms of overstretched charities or onto the streets. All this at a time when youth unemployment is high. This is unconscionable. We will not stand for it. How could we? There are those of you in the gallery who argue that Labor is making it harder for the government to achieve its fiscal strategy. Let me remind you that the proposals that Labor will oppose over the forward estimates in this budget add up to less than 4 years' expenditure for the government's extravagant paid parental leave scheme. Budgets are about priorities. This government's values tell them that it's okay to introduce a scheme which sends cheques for $50,000 to millionaires to have a baby, while cutting the pension, freezing younger people out of Newstart and reducing family payments. It's just wrong. If the government is determined to remove support, Labor is willing to act proactively in the debate. Bill Shorten has made it clear that science will be front and centre of our agenda in government. As a first step, he's taken responsibility for the science portfolio himself, assisted by Kim Carr. Here at the Press Club in March, Bill Shorten spoke about the need to foster entrepreneurship and his commitment to small business. He spoke about the need to improve the treatment of employee share schemes so it can remove a drag on innovation. In the same vein, there are other ideas that Labor is interested in pursuing to create growth and jobs for the future. Parliament is not a rubber stamp for broken promises or bad policy. That is not what the Australian people expect us to do. Let me put an alternative scenario to you, a parallel universe. Imagine if last week Bill Shorten had stood in the Parliament and said, well, we don't like these very much, but we're going to pass them. You would have very rightly been asking me today, and millions of Australians would have been asking, well, what does Labor stand for? If Labor won't stand up for the unemployed, what do we stand for? If Labor won't stand up for pensioners, who do we stand up for? If Labor won't stand up for families doing it tough, when will we? This is our task as the Australian Labor Party, to represent people in the Parliament, and we will represent them and we will fight for them and we will vote for them on the legislation.